The 1960s were an amazing period for Marvel comic books, and this is where they introduced a lot of very popular characters that are well known today, like Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. And there were a tremendous amount of great stories that came out during this time, captured in a lot of these kind of classic panels. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some of these classic panels, specifically in The Amazing Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. So let's jump right in. Spider-Man first appeared in Amazing Fantasy number 15, and if you're a fan of this character, you'll be very familiar with the famous line, "With great power comes great responsibility." These words have taken on a life of their own in comic book history, so it's easy to think that they may have been splashed in a huge panel in this original issue, but that's really not the case. Actually, the words show up in the last panel, a very small panel with Spider-Man with his back to us, walking away realizing the mistake he had made earlier that could have prevented the death of his uncle, Ben Parker. One panel that sticks out for me in this issue is where Spider-Man realizes the criminal he captures is the same one he could have stopped earlier. But what's notable for me is his eyes in this panel. It's the only one I can think of where we actually see his eyeballs through the mask. To emphasize his realization. Let's take a look at some other classic panels from Spider-Man in the 1960s. At the end of Amazing Spider-Man number 32, we see Spidey trapped under a huge amount of machinery, and in number 33, there's a classic sequence of panels where he struggles to free himself. The moment where he lifts the massive machinery is awesome, and Steve Ditko really captures the moment well. Spidey takes a lot of beatings in other issues, but in this issue, it really seems like it's at a different level, where he comes back from incredible odds to win the battle. Amazing Spider-Man number 39 is special for a number of reasons. John Romita Sr. would start his memorable run as penciler, but another shocking event would occur, in that Spider-Man's arch-nemesis, the Green Goblin, would discover his identity. In turn, the Green Goblin would reveal himself to Spider-Man as Norman Osborn at the end of the issue, which would lead to the classic battle they would have in issue number 40, a huge event in Spider-Man history. Silver Age Spider-Man are probably one of the most expensive Silver Age titles to collect, and there's a good reason why, because just everybody loves Spider-Man, and certainly if I were to choose one comic book that I would love to have in my collection, it would actually be Amazing Fantasy 15. A great alternative to buying the original issues, but still giving you the same kind of feel of these old comic books, are the 1960s reprints in Marvel Tales. And Marvel Tales, along with Marvel Collector's Item Classics and Marvel Superheroes, feature a lot of reprints from earlier Silver Age Marvel titles. So this is a copy of Marvel Tales number 20, and Marvel Tales primarily showcased Spider-Man reprints. Well, the later issues would be just exclusively Spider-Man, but the earlier issues did reprint other titles of other characters. I wanted to show a classic panel in this other issue that I have behind here, but I kind of wanted to lead up with this reprint of Spider-Man number 25, because this introduces actually Mary Jane. And what I love about these things, these particular comic books, is that these have the same kind of feel and smell of the classic Silver Age comic books. And this is the page where Mary Jane Watson is introduced, but you don't see her face. So you see the reaction from Betty Brant and Liz Allen on how MJ looks. So I thought that was kind of pretty cool. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So the classic panel I want to talk about is the reveal of Mary Jane Watson. And this is Marvel Tales number 31, but this reprints Amazing Spider-Man number 42, and in particular, the last panel. And this is it. Once Peter Parker sees MJ, you can see his expression in the classic line, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." So Marvel Tales would start to have more Spidey reprints as the series went on. So you can see before there is a Steve Ditko reprint. And then after this, I guess more suitably, there would be a Steve Ditko Doctor Strange reprint. Stan Lee, Steve Ditko. So great stuff. You know, a really nice way to get early Marvel Silver Age stories. I really love these old square-bound books, and while high-grade copies can cost you a little bit, I think generally you can find lower-grade copies for a very reasonable price. Amazing Spider-Man number 50 is better known for its iconic cover, but this issue also has a classic full-page panel showing Peter Parker tossing his Spider-Man costume into a garbage can, disillusioned with the burdens of being a hero. It's not the first time he's had this identity crisis, and he went through this earlier in issue number 18, but it's certainly not as dramatic as illustrated in this one panel. Amazing Spider-Man 100 perhaps has one of the most shocking panels as far as Spider-Man goes. So Spider-Man, realizing that if he wants to live a normal life with Gwen Stacy, decides to take a special potion to basically become human. There's a great sequence of pages where Spidey is dreaming about fighting his old villains while he took a potion to cure himself, but when he wakes up, the freakiest thing happens. He has grown an additional 4 arms. You'll have to read the following couple issues to find out what happens. Fantastic Four also has its share of classic panels. You can say in the first issue, there's a classic moment where they all put their hands together to decide they'll use their powers for the greater good, but it's pretty subdued. I'd say where you could find a lot of classic panels and Jack Kirby's finest moments would come with the Silver Surfer Galactus story in issues 48 to 50. This is the last issue of the Silver Surfer Galactus trilogy, but I was never a huge fan of this cover. I think 49 is an amazing cover. I'll just quickly show that over here. But there is one panel in here featuring Galactus, which I think is amazing. I always love these house ads. And this is it. The classic Galactus panel, which really I think Kirby does a great job. Although I think it's kind of funny, you see his costume, he's got that G, but here you feel the might and power of Galactus. And I always thought this issue was kind of interesting because the story just kind of ends halfway through the issue, and then you go on to like Johnny Storm going off to college, right? It's even mentioned here. At last, the Human Torch goes to college after dealing with Galactus. Wow. Okay, there you go. This is Fantastic Four number 51. Arguably one of the finest single-story issues ever made. Certainly the best, in my opinion, single-story Fantastic Four issue by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. So I think it's got a classic cover as well as the first splash page, which I think is pretty awesome. I think what's also cool about this issue as I leaf through it, Kirby, what he did was he would experiment with some kind of like, wow, that's a great page, kind of mixing photo media with comic book art, and you can see that here. But to me, what I really loved in this issue were the last few panels, particularly this one here, where, they realized that Ben Grimm, the Thing, is okay. These two panels over here, you can kind of see over here that Reed Richards and Sue Richards are they're very sad because they feel that Ben Grimm had sacrificed himself, but it wasn't actually him. And just the expression of the Thing and what he says, it's like, easy, Susie Gale, your husband might get jealous and try to polish me off with some new $50 words. And I love that panel. as well as the last panel here where Reed Richards says, he paid the full price and he paid it like a man. So to me, these are classic panels from this classic issue of Fantastic Four number 51. Oh, I do love this book. So this is a copy of Fantastic Four number 55, and this is parchment paper if you're kind of curious. When it comes to kind of handling these older, more expensive books, I do like to use parchment paper because what you don't want to happen is to get any kind of fingerprints on your comic books. And some people will use gloves, but just make sure your hands are clean when you handle more expensive older books. I always thought this panel here with the Silver Surfer is a classic Jack Kirby Silver Surfer panel. And honestly, like if you want a good battle issue, this is a great one. It's a classic battle between the Thing and the Silver Surfer, where you really get to see them like look at that, go toe to toe, and the Thing really doesn't push any punches at all. So a superb issue with like an amazing fight sequence between two heavyweights, the Thing and the Silver Surfer. But this one's got a lot of great Kirby stuff in it. This is Fantastic Four number 57, a classic cover featuring Dr. Doom and the Silver Surfer. Enter Dr. Doom. But there's one panel in here that I wanted to show. And again, another splash page. And this story arc features Dr. Doom tricking the Surfer and then basically stealing his powers. And this is the page or the sequence that I wanted to show with these classic panels. To me, this is the most iconic Kirby Dr. Doom page. Here you have him cowering over a fallen Silver Surfer and gaining the powers cosmic. A wonderful story arc. And looking forward to the movie. This is Fantastic Four Annual 5, and I always felt this was kind of an underrated issue because it features a lot of fairly early appearances of major characters like the Inhumans and Black Panther. And I believe this is, it says November 1967, so maybe not that super early, but anyways, it's all new content, and first appearance of this villain, Psycho something, I forget. But what is more significant about this issue is that it's the Silver Surfer. This is his first solo story, and it really has some crazy good. Oh yeah, this is also full of awesome pinups too by Kirby, but some really good Kirby Surfer artwork. And in particular, like Kirby is well known for his what they call Kirby Crackle, which is these little dots of energy. But check out this page, like an amazing classic Silver Surfer full page panel. And yeah. Let's take a look at another one of these reprint titles that Marvel published in the 1960s. This time, Marvel Collector's Item Classics, which primarily focused on Fantastic Four as its headliner. Marvel Collector's Item Classics reprinted FF stories as well as other titles, but FF reprints were the primary driver of this title. And this issue number 17 reprints Fantastic Four number 23. But what's also impressive about this issue is that it reprints Strange Tales 126 and Tales Suspense number 57. And those are significant because, and I love these Doctor Strange panels by Steve Ditko. This is the first appearance of Dormammu. And, to me, this is a classic panel up here where Doctor Strange is being tested by, this Guardian of the Gate. And then you would see Dormammu being revealed later on over here. I also love these ads. And then here is Tales of Suspense number 57, the first appearance of Hawkeye. So, I mean, what a package in one particular issue of Marvel Collector's Item Classics. Issue number 17, yeah, you have an early FF issue, you have the first appearance of Dormammu, and then you have the first appearance of Hawkeye, all in one issue. And again, like, generally, like, lower grade copies of this stuff is, I want to say, fairly inexpensive. The higher grade copies, even the higher grade copies, are not really that expensive, but these are certainly worth checking out if you want to read these in kind of like this old newsprint time period. Really great stuff. There you go. A look at a lot of classic panels from Marvel from The Amazing Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four in the 1960s. I wanted to do more issues, but I just found that there are so many classic panels, I'm going to probably do another future video on other titles. If you're more curious about the Fantastic Four, I did a recap of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's run, one of the greatest runs in comic books, in a video that you can find over here. Thanks for watching, and until next time, read and enjoy your comic books.